Joining us, executive editor of The Nation, John Nichols, Republican strategist and MS NOW political analyst Matthew Bartlett, and Basil Smikle back with us. I mean, there is a record stock market. Jobs numbers aren't that bad. I mean, gas prices are starting to come down. So why are still so many Americans saying this is not good?
Well, one of the things you have to understand is that economics doesn't operate on, just a bunch of statistics, right? Yeah. It's your life. And the fact of the matter is, if you're a farmer in the Midwest and you just went through trying to figure out how to get fertilizer, trying to deal with trade and all this stuff, you're in the middle of the season, you're out there in the field, and maybe you're told, yeah, gas prices are getting a little better and stuff like that. You've just been through something really rough. Yeah. Right? And that's the same for a lot of other folks. And so you get to this situation where there would have to be tremendous improvement for people to say, yeah, I feel good about where we're at. And that's going to take a long time. And so now look, if you're talking politics, simple reality. You got trajectories here. Maybe the economy does get significantly better. But does it get better quick enough for people to forget what they've been through? Also,
when you're talking about the stock market, you have like about 50% of the country is in it. So there's a large part of the country that's not. Even the ones that are in it, though, and are seeing their retirement savings go up, there is a feeling that this might not last for that much longer. The AI bubble feels real.
Yeah, listen, Katie, people are making money. The stock market is incredibly high. People feel very good about this economy, if their last name is Trump. If not, it is the same stubborn, sticky post-COVID economy where it's incredibly expensive for groceries, for gas, for housing, for healthcare, for education. Going to work costs money. So, yeah, I think the American public remain very frustrated, and rightfully so.
What's amazing about the economy and feelings toward it is it's largely been tied to whether your political party is in power. I mean, they've done studies that have shown that Americans think the economy is bad on a Tuesday or on a Monday. On a Tuesday, their political party gets elected, and the economy feels a whole lot better. So it can be emotional, which means that 60% number that we're seeing regarding the economy when Donald Trump won the last election is even more striking.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I also don't think a lot of votes for Donald Trump were about the economy. It was also about status. Mm-hmm. And that, to me, is incredibly important. So the question is, do a lot of those voters feel that their status has improved vis-a-vis some of those other voters since Donald Trump has been in office?
What do you mean by status?
Well, the adjacency to him, the adjacency to power, the fact that, some people might have voted for him because they felt that his...
But don't you think because they're adjacent to him, that they would feel better about the economy? Doesn't that bleed over?
Well, if gas prices are up and groceries are up and underreported stats that foreclosures and bankruptcies are up in the double digits. So are people really feeling that? If you go back to the Hoover, comparison, one of the things that the mistakes that Hoover made was putting a tax on imports, and that was terrible. Wow.
Not good.
No one seemed to learn from history. And so when you have farmers struggling in the way, there's places where Democrats are actually doing better in areas that were deeply red, that suggests that a lot of those voters don't think that Donald Trump's time in office has really been beneficial.
Let me play Donald Trump talking about not wanting to be Herbert Hoover.
The one thing I didn't want to see is economic catastrophe. If you kept this going, that could have happened. But all I know is every time we talked about the possibility of peace, the stock market shot up like a rocket ship. It never went down. And every time we said something negative, like, guess what, we're not going to be able to settle, it would go down very big. The one president I did not want to be was the late, great Herbert Hoover. I didn't want that, and who knows what would have happened.
Was somebody just explaining? Did he watch like a drunk history on Herbert Hoover? No. Was someone explaining to him who Herbert Hoover was? Why suddenly he's never mentioned him before that I can remember at least.
The one thing about Donald Trump is, and in fact we were just talking before we came on, he has many political skills. I don't think knowledge of American political history is one of them. And the fact of the matter is that Hoover, frankly, gets a bad break in some ways. I mean, Coolidge wrecked a lot of stuff, and then Hoover came in and had to sit on top of the mess that was made. So you had a number of Republican presidents that went bad. But what Trump knows is he doesn't want that circumstance. He doesn't want to be the guy who's seen as wrecking the economy. And right now, that's begun to attach to him.
Why does he suddenly feel it now? People have been talking about this for a long time. So how did it finally get through?
Well, that's a great question. And that press conference that you just showed was extraordinary. And the president went from, I don't care about inflation, I don't care about the economy, all of a sudden to a 180. And he's talking about we just emptied the strategic oil reserves. We could be entering a global depression. Really saying we are raising the white flag of victory here and going to go to Iran and end this immediately. It makes you question what type of economic reports he's been getting. Kevin Hassert comes out every day. He's like a gaffe machine saying how much Americans are spending on credit cards, not just gas, but on everything else. So again, this economy remains frothy.
And you wonder who he was talking to right before that press conference.
Yeah.
That's what gets interesting.
Well, can I tell you why it's sticking to him? Because the one thing that got us out of the depression that FDR showed to the American people, which I don't think anybody associates with Donald Trump, is empathy.
Yeah.
Every single program that FDR produced through the New Deal was attached to trying to elevate the economy and people. Where does Donald Trump do that?
But here's the thing. When you're talking to Donald Trump's voters, just as somebody who's spoken to them a lot over the years, they do feel like he's empathetic, or they used to feel like he was empathetic. They certainly did during 2016. They thought he saw them. And what is amazing about the sound that we've gathered, and Alex Tabbitt's been doing an amazing job getting people from all over the country, is that they don't feel that empathy any longer from Donald Trump. They don't think he's paying attention to them or cares about them.
Right, and you've got Elon Musk with a chainsaw saying, "I slashed government. Everybody's fired," and they attach that, that to him.
But they
and the
still see
effect
that.
of that is extraordinary. Hundreds of thousands of black women out of work.
I think it's more the ballroom. I think
Well,
it
it's a lot
is.
of that.
I think
Well,
it's the imagery that you can see in
Wrecking the
Washington.
reflecting pool, all the stuff like this. But there's also something else. I mean, Trump, like him or dislike him, he had a personal following, right? Can he transfer that to a midterm election? It didn't work very well in 2018. Now he is in a situation, and I think that perhaps what was behind that press conference and some other things is that there are people telling him, yeah, this economy is really not looking very good. And he's not on the top of that ballot to try and explain it or make it do whatever he does.
He can't pull anybody
right?
He likes to decree that things are great.
And suddenly you're starting to see numbers out of places like Iowa, where you're looking at a governor's race where the Democrat looks to be ahead. You're looking at a Senate race where the Democrat just pulled 2 points ahead. No guarantees that Iowa flips. But boy, if a place like Iowa can move that quickly back from Trump, that's scary to him because that means he might be looking at the last 2 years without a Congress.
Look at it, a New York Times article. The headline was, Democrats are doing well, even in red places.
Yes. I mean, again, he was brought back to power. I would argue, on an economic message. And I'm a Republican. I call back home to MAGA friends. They remain incredibly frustrated. They're still cheering for the president, right? They're still partisans. But they are so sick of Venezuela, of Iran, of Cuba, and saying, who is fighting for me, for my friends, my family, my future, and that it is incredibly expensive.
And the thing about Iran is that you get a reminder of it every time you pass a gas pump.
That's right.
All right, gentlemen, thank you so much for being here, especially good having all of you in person.